What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, let's do a little Middlekauff mailbag. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. I actually just saw before I hopped on that the Rams will try to trade Cooper Kupp this offseason, aka in the next month, basically at the combine. I think the problem, and you see this happen with a lot of older veteran players who make a lot of money but no longer produce to that salary, is they're not really a tradable player. And this is a guy who's battled injuries, super high character, hard worker still, blocks his ass off. But in terms of, he makes $20 million next season. And he's just not a $20 million player at this point. It doesn't mean that he can't have a bounce back year. But we see this song and dance every single offseason. Like, they're going to have to cut him. Cooper Kupp's going to be cut. And then, he's going to sign for way less than $20 million. And someone's going to hope that they can catch lightning in a bottle. And he has a big season. He stays healthy. But based on his salary, I don't see how he's a tradable asset. Even for teams like the Patriots, who are going to want like the Jets, all these teams. We get new coaches, the Raiders, that are going to want like high character, winning players, dudes that are about the right shit, practice their ass off, kind of set the tone. I don't know if I can pay $20 million for that. So I think he's just going to get cut. Now, maybe those teams can overpay him once he's released, but Cooper Kupp's the first of many guys coming down the line here that are just not going to be on their teams. Listen to the latest mailbag. Dune is badass. Definitely check it out. I actually might. I'm flying to New Orleans in the morning. Maybe I'll download that on my on the old iPad. I probably should read a book. I always tell myself I bring a book. I got a book right now that's been in my kind of laptop book bag carrying case thing, that goes on your shoulder that like mature adults are supposed to wear. It basically just sits on my floor in my office the whole time. But I've had this book, Never Split the Difference. It's like a negotiating book in there for like 3 years. And every time I'm like, this is the time I'm going to read it on the plane. And then I just end up watching like 4 episodes of some stupid show. Question for the mailbag. Every year in the NFL, things happen that are totally unexpected. Darnold is good. Washington goes to the NFC Championship. Dallas sucks. The Niners suck. In 2025, what are some crazy things you could see happen that would blindside the NFL fans and media? Would be a better question for July and August, but wanted to put this on your radar. I do think it's difficult to do this like in February because Cooper Kupp's a good example. The amount of players that get cut before free agency that are just big names is pretty high. And then we will see massive trades, right? Like who is going to trade for Myles Garrett? Does he get traded? Like what happens, and then obviously the quarterbacks that get drafted and move teams. So I hear what you're saying. I think it's just way too early to even think about. One thing, you learn following the league and working the league and just talking about football nonstop. It's so cliche when coaches say this. Is like every year's a new year. Every team, when the season starts, is different from the previous years. And they say that not because, like, yeah, Mahomes, Kelsey, like a lot of guys are saying, you get a lot of turnover, depending on how good and bad your team is. I mean, you're getting 15, 20, 30%. I mean, some of these teams, I mean, the Jets, some of the bad teams, the Raiders, there could be massive, massive purges. So I think it's just really hard to do that right now. But I appreciate it. We'll definitely, we're going to need some content in the summer. So we will do that as well. A lot of people are asking me, I'm a big golf bettor. Your boy just hit the Rory bet over the weekend. We haven't been doing the Go Low pod. Um, we'll start that after Super Bowl week, or within the next couple weeks for sure. But who I'm gambling on, because I do gamble on golf, I do like Scotty Scheffler this week. Now you get him; he's like 3.5, 4-1 on DraftKings. Some other guys that I like is like top tens and 20s. Tom Kim, younger guy who's on Tiger's team in the TGL. He's pretty electric young kid. Kind of small, doesn't hit that long, is actually getting longer in distance. He's a really good player. And to me, he's kind of a bright lights. He's good in the President's Cup. Like I like him a lot this weekend. Top 20, top 10. If you want to sprinkle and get aggressive, top 5, top, to win it. But to me, listen, Scotty Scheffler's odds are pretty bad. He's won this tournament before. I play this course a lot. It's tailor made for him. In Pebble, he's coming off ripping his hand open, and he still finished like tied for eighth or seventh. He'll be fine. So Tom Kim, Thigala are a couple guys I like as top tens and 20s. Had to re-download the gram after 2 years of not DMing. You re-emphasize your belief on not taking a top wide receiver over the line of scrimmage. I wholeheartedly agree. Playing armchair GM. When Pete took Witherspoon at 5 over Carter, I agreed at the time, given the character, but is this just overthinking it? If he had done that, we could have moved up for Nix the next year instead of taking Byron Murphy. Murphy is good, but he's not Carter. Even if we took Paris Johnson the year after we took Cross, the left tackle. Feels like the Hawks and John are not emphasizing a need. We get desperate 4 years. Good backers, good secondary, elite pass catchers, and back. Obviously need a quarterback for the future, but it's so hard to get one. Please give me help. Let me say this. I think when you factor in character and you factor in off the field stuff, that's a curveball. So like they took Witherspoon, who when healthy is a really, really good player. I can't fault you for Pete Carroll not being comfortable with the player. He had taken flyers before on guys. Pete's pretty liberal when it comes to like judging people's character. I mean, they have taken some serious flyers, and some of them worked. Early on, he got Marshawn for a fourth. That worked out really well, and it was good fit for him. But they've also had some Percy Harvins. They've had some. Remember Malik McDowell? I mean, you would because you're a fan, but very huge red flag. Was a bad situation. So I think Pete Carroll understands how important drafting Jalen Carter, but it's like he didn't trust the person. And given where their franchise was, he didn't think they were equipped to handle it. I think if it's LOB, he brings them in with Richard Sherman and that crew. So I think if he had passed on like Jalen, I don't think he passed on Jalen Carter if he's just a normal character guy. If he hadn't been in a car accident where multiple people died and left the scene and then had to leave the combine to check himself into jail. You know, I think I give Pete Carroll a pass on that one. Mailbag. Theoretically, if you were a commissioner and you were able to cut the number of NBA games in half and only have 40, do you think that would solve a lot of the problems that the NBA has? Players sitting out, not carrying, games feeling insignificant. I just don't think you can really play that game. We do that a lot with baseball and basketball. Their sports, their sport. Like you play a lot of games in baseball and basketball. Starting in college. Like in college basketball, you play 2 to 3 games a week. College baseball, you play Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A huge part of those sports, you play a ton at a young age. Football, everyone tries to mimic or copy football in terms of the setup of the lack of games. If football could play 50 games, they would. You just physically can't. I mean, we're stretching it 18. So I think we always do play less Major League Baseball games, play less NBA games. I don't know if that's going to change. I hear a lot of people go from 82 to 70. Okay, then guys are still going to sit out. So I hear what you're saying, but I think that's a little overrated. Longtime listener and lifelong Notre Dame fan. We obviously had an incredible run, but I can't help but notice that the Irish never seem to have top-tier explosive wide receivers. There are some obvious outliers, but compared to other elite programs, we never seem to land the big name. What will it take to start bringing in those top-tier guys? Should Notre Dame focus more NIL on wideouts, or is Marcus Freeman build a strong enough culture to stay the course with tough defense and incredibly good run game to win a natty. Who are your outliers? Golden Tate, Chase Claypool. I think it's difficult because, for the most part, I would say when you think Notre Dame, you don't think sweet wideouts and sweet DBs, right? But you're able to get really good defensive linemen in. I think you have to look at it from an academic standpoint. You have high academic standards. So when Stanford was really good under Harbaugh and David Shaw, they didn't have that many sweet wide receivers either. Doug Baldwin, Sherman was a wide receiver, moved to corner, but they won exactly like Marcus Freeman's plan. Get a great quarterback, dominate the line of scrimmage, and be tougher. So I think that's just kind of the way, unless you're going to move like you have like Ohio State has no academic standards, or LSU or Georgia to get a player into school. If you're good enough, I'm getting you into school. Period, point blank, end of story. You guys have them. And if I was a fan, I'd be like, can we throw them away for some players? And clearly they don't. When Brian Kelly said that I'm leaving to go to LSU because I think I can win a national championship there, he was simply saying the academic requirements are lower. That's all he was saying. He can't say that out loud, but that's what he was saying. I can get anyone I want into school. And I couldn't do that in Notre Dame. Which, how much longer are we even going to play this game where school even factors in? It's probably coming to an end. This ain't the little itty bitty tiny bowl. This is the Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hosting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a TD. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The crown is yours. What team do you think would be ideal for Belichick to return to the NFL? Personally, I think it's the Bengals. Taylor might be on his way out if the Bengals miss the playoffs next year. And Bill has a history of doing more with less on special teams and defense since the Bengals are allergic to spending big money on anyone not named Burrow and Chase. We'll see on that one. You know what my hot take is going to be? I don't think Bill ever comes back. I think if Bill has success this year, and success for Bill could be, I don't know, 9-3, but it just gains momentum and it looks like he's got something there. I think I could just see him doing that. His kid's there. His buddy Mike Lombardi's there. I just, if I was a betting man, I would bet on Bill being there for 3 or 4 years. I really would. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm ignorant. But if it goes well, I could see Bill Belichick being there. Now, what if it goes bad? What if he goes 6-6? Is he still just hireable? I mean, probably is, but there is a chance that his Belichick's name diminishes a little bit if they were to not have a good season. It's hard to even know. I mean, I don't follow college football recruiting well enough, and it's so hard to even tell because guys change rosters all the time. Is team good? Who's his quarterback? What? And who knows? I mean, we'll find out in spring ball. And who are his coaches? Who are his coaches? They keep pushing back on that. It's like, well, do you have a staff? I know he's hired some guys. What does it take for the Bills to fire McDermott next year? I think Sean would have to pull like a Zach Taylor and miss the playoffs. If they continue to be the number 2 seed and make it to the AFC Championship game, you're going to fire the guy? I just don't see it happening. They have the same season they do, win the AFC East with ease, and then rattle off a couple playoff victories. I know we act like it's devastating, but he's losing to Mahomes. He's losing to Mahomes and Andy Reid. It's like he's outcoached. Of course he is. Andy Reid's a better coach. Who's out coaching Andy Reid? Not John Harbaugh. Like, who's out coaching him? I don't see anyone out coaching him. Maybe Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh could in a playoff game if they had a good enough team, but those guys are better than Sean McDermott. It's like, and you're not getting either one of those guys. They got jobs. So who are you hiring? Elevate Joe Brady, the guy that was running quarterback sneaks in the line of scrimmage? I just don't see your options. I mean, I really don't. I have a question for the podcast. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys' hire of Schottenheimer? The Seahawks had him as an offensive coordinator for 3 years, and in my opinion, he was terrible and doesn't seem like a player friendly coach or a guy that is respected by players. It just seems to me that his hire as a head coach was a lack of options by an out of touch owner who impulsively hired him. And since the Cowboys blew a chance at good coaching by waiting, a good coaching hire by waiting, why wouldn't Jerry uh, waited? Why wouldn't Jerry have waited a little longer to get Kellen Moore? I just think he would have been a better fit for the Cowboys, having experience in the organization. Thing I'll say about the players is a bunch of Cowboys showed up to his press conference, and they were all hugging him after, and main one being Dak. And it's pretty clear, like Dak is pretty highly respected in that organization. So I don't know if I could agree with you on the player standpoint. Now, I don't know anyone with the Cowboys, so it's not like I'm speaking beside side information just based on what I've seen. But I think a big reason that they hired him is they thought the players really liked him. I think that was a driving force, is they felt like obviously Jerry can control him and he's relatively cheaper, but like the players like him. I don't think he's hired if Dak Prescott and the players are not on board. But yeah, I mean it's an underwhelming kind of out of left field. If I would have told you December 1st that Brian Schottenheimer is going to be their next coach, I don't think anyone would have believed you. How do you view Kingsbury as a head coach in the next hiring cycle? As a Cardinal fan, I felt he had restraints on fully running the offense he is running now with the Commanders. He also has more connections in the league now to build a staff, as I felt his position coaches were weak when he was with the Cards. Two, as an NFL scout, were you responsible or partially responsible for finding a diamond in the rough? I think that's fair. Maybe Cliff has grown. Maybe his knowledge of knowing guys in the NFL now is much wider, given his time spent as an NFL coach and now as an assistant. Uh, he's just got a better quarterback, so the offense looks better for sure. He had a really good year. I mean, he was definitely one of the standout coordinators in the NFL, especially non-head coach coordinator. And most, so many of the hot offensive coordinators are also head coaches. But of just the pure offensive coordinators, he was easily one of the best in the NFL. I think with the internet, the diamond in the rough thing is something like from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I just think the internet and the technology now has kind of changed the game. Like if you run a 4.2 at some little pro day that one scout is at, that information gets out, and it gets every team has access to that. If you lead Division 3 as like the all-time leading tackler, or you have a 25 touchdown, there's just no way to hide. I think that is a term that is pretty outdated. I think when you see guys drafted higher than others, we have a different grade on you. But I think it is very, very rare for a player to be drafted that every team in the league does not have draft grades on, which to me, a diamond in the rough in like the 80s, there would be guys drafted that other teams would have never heard of. That does not happen anymore. So I guess it's a long way. I think it's kind of over. I mean, look at college football. I think it used to happen a lot in college football. Now with the expansion of rivals and the internet, if you get one offer, even if you're not like a Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State guy, what if I just get offered from San Diego State? Then other teams in my conference pay attention. Then they might offer you. And then the teams on the lower end of the Power Four start paying attention. Like, who's this guy? And it's just a trickle of, down effect. So it's like a domino. And I think it's just I think the world's changed with that. And I think most people in the NFL would agree. There is really no such thing as a diamond in the rough. Now, there is in the sense that we believed in this guy. Everyone thought he was an undrafted free agent. They laughed at us. We took him in the fifth round and he became a 10-year starter. Like that happens. But I don't think it happens if we took this guy in the sixth round. Half the league was like, who the fuck is Billy Middlekauff? You're like, oh, this guy he's playing at Arizona Tech. Like Arizona Tech. What division's that? Oh, Division 4. Where'd you find this guy? Oh, this couple guys told me about him. Like those days are over. Question for the mailbag. With the allegations against Justin Tucker, if the Ravens had won the AFC and were preparing for the Super Bowl, how do you think they would handle the situation? Stand him down for the game or drag out the process and say they're doing an investigation and let him play and deal with it in the offseason? It's a good question. I mean, obviously it's a hypothetical we don't know the answer to. And I mean, beside the headlines, I haven't really paid that much attention to it. I saw, the allegations came out, Justin Tucker came back, hard rebuttal, and then more allegations came. I think your equity, Justin Tucker's been on the team for what? A decade? Longer than that? So his equity with Harbaugh, with the owner, with DaCosta, he's 35 years old. He joined the Ravens in 2012. So he's been on the team 14, 15 years. So I would say John Harbaugh, a former special teams coach, would have a pretty good feel for him as a guy. And the equity, and listen, you don't know everything the guy's doing outside the building, but you got a pretty good idea. Like all these teams have legit security and they follow these guys and word gets out. So it's like, do you trust him? And it's just a he said, she said. So there's no way like you can prove any of it. But if you have no other information saying that he's guilty and he's telling you he's innocent and he's been on your team for well over a decade, I would say he's one of the more definitive special teams players of my lifetime in terms of this guy you can name. Like, who's one of the great special teams? Who are the best kickers you've ever seen? Like, his name comes up pretty fast. So if they trust him, which I don't, your guess is as good as mine. What they actually feel about him, I clearly don't not like him. I don't know necessarily about this issue, but my guess is he would play if he's taking the stance of I've done nothing, and they would take his word for it. Would be my educated guess of following football. A lot of you guys hit me with the wind on this, the name for the fans. And I was thinking about, a lot of you guys are firing in the DMs, like the Outlaws, the Outliers, the Click, the Posse, the Cough Squad, the Cough Crew, uh, all sorts of stuff. The Coughers made me laugh. One I did not hate was Crew, my crew with a K. I do think it has to be one word. It doesn't have to be football related either, but I think it does have to pop off the tongue. And I used the Jim Rome one when I was young, the clones. The clones. It just kind of works. I think ending with an S helps the clones. Portnoy calls the Stoolies called it forever. I think some of these like the punt team, right, or the whatever. I think it's hard when it's like a statement. This one's not terrible, the mailman, but I do think it has to. I think when it ends in S, it's a little bit better. Don't hate the mailman. I do like the Cough Crew or just the crew with K. You could make Hatch anyone that knows like those golfing hats that have like the letters KREW. I think that would actually look kind of sick. Uh, but yeah, keep firing those in. Again, I'm crowdsourcing this, open to ideas, open to a lot of different ideas. I do think one word is very important to get it to stick than like a statement, like the punting unit. I just I don't hate the idea. Like I know where I appreciate everyone firing in those ideas. I just don't think it really works. Again, could be wrong. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead to have dinner. Everyone have a great day, and we'll talk soon. See you.